tradition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say is even harder to find.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is another episode of All Things Real Estate. And 3 seasons in, we're tired of the name, so we're ready to do a podcast refresh. So I think what we're going to do is next week on our Instagram page, we're going to put up some polls. We're going to let our viewers and...
I thought you decided it.
I did, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter what we call it.
It does for SEO purposes.
What did you say?
Unlocking
Silicon Valley. So just take it. Just change it, and Mark doesn't even know how to unchange it, so it'll be good.
All right, well, welcome to the first episode of Unlocking Silicon Valley, formerly known as All Things Real Estate. Mixing it up today a little bit, we've got a special guest, somebody who I've known and worked with for many, many, many years, Nick Homer. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, and no Mark, no Jason, no Ben today, so
we're better off.
It's going to be a great podcast. I'm going to jump into stats real quick. We're hitting that time of year where inventory levels are peaking, and we're seeing the market slow down a little bit, right? Less offers, less activity through the open house, and we've talked about it in the last couple of podcasts. Slows down in June, picks back up usually mid-July through September. So today we're sitting at 845 single-family homes, which is the highest number we've had in recent memory, right?
Mm-hmm. What did Aaron predict it would be by now?
1,600.
Well, I mean, then I'll give you some credit. If you take everything that is active, single-family homes, condos, townhomes, and include the 370 properties that are in our MLS that are coming soon that consumers can't see, we actually have 1,712 properties.
You see?
Wow, you were close.
But I think I said single family.
Yeah. So, and you're nowhere near that. But market's moving. We have about a month and a half worth of inventory, where before we were at 3 weeks worth of inventory. But what are you guys seeing out there in terms of your listings, your buyers? You still getting beat with multiple offers? Mm-hmm. Are you seeing stuff sit longer?
Seems like condos, townhouses, the amount of offers is down for sure. Mm-hmm. Things that are super dialed in and done are still selling like hotcakes, especially single families. And for recently, I've experienced people paying a lot more for subjective things, pools, views, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing something similar. I mean, buyers are still in the market, but they're pickier, right? Mm-hmm. They want the right property, especially with these higher rates. So something turnkey is definitely selling much quicker than something that requires a lot of work, unless it's in a very good area with desirable schools.
Right.
Like Cupertino homes are still flying off the shelves, but like homes in East San Jose.
So what I've also seen is a lot of younger buyers start to enter the market. So we went to Nick's class this morning, and he was talking about wealth management. I've seen a ton of people between the ages of 27, 28, and 32 enter the market, where maybe they're able to get a condo early on.
Right.
Interest rate's 3%. They're actually able to keep that. Maybe their company IPO'd. Maybe they have some stock now in the company, and they have enough for a down payment to finally jump in the market with, they had a kid or whatever.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, and that's a good question, a good segue actually to what I wanted to ask it to you, because going back to Nick's class today, he was talking about how this, the current generation is waiting longer to get married, waiting longer to have kids. For your clients that are, 26 to 32, 34 years old that are entering into the market, are you seeing them married, or is it just domestic partnership? Are you seeing with any kids, more than one kid? What's kind of the general consensus?
A lot of people recently got married. I feel like I get a wedding invitation every month.
Okay.
And then a lot of babies, right? So I'm 30. We have a 16-month-old. So it's like spot on to what you were talking about. Yeah. I feel like a ton of people starting to have kids now. They graduated in like 2011 to 2014.
Mm-hmm. And it's just those life events that are saying, okay.
It was never that people didn't want to buy a house. It was just so damn hard to get that down payment, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. People are waiting longer to get married, to have kids. It also takes a lot of time to build a career, get going. Once both partners are settled, I guess that's when they feel comfortable taking that next step. So the average age of getting married is definitely getting longer. My average client is probably 32 to 35 years old right now, and they are either recently married or they have just had a kid.
Versus Mark's average client, which is usually 75 to 105, and on their way out or in the ground.
But it's like a perfect example of a lot of Mark's clients. His kids, went to school with the client's kids, and now the kids are grown and they're moving out.
Yep.
Right. If there's no reason that you need to be in the Bay Area, chances are like you've enjoyed the weather, you've had a great family here,
lots of equity accumulated over time.
Florida looks great. Tennessee's been a hot spot. Idaho, Arizona, so things like that. I mean, where do you see most people? Where do you see most of your clients going?
As far as relocation, I would say those hot spots: Idaho, Arizona, the Sun Belt states. So.
I mean, you even relocated, right?
Yeah.
You lived here, and then how many years ago did you move out?
2016. So was that 8 years?
Where are you?
I'm in Scottsdale.
Oh, if I moved, I would move to Paradise Valley.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing out there is the home prices are getting pretty close to out here.
Yeah, but
you get so much more bang for that $5 million home, right? It's an estate versus here. It's 4-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about you and what you're up to, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your company, and then I'm going to jump into kind of one of the topics that you touched on today that I think is really relevant for a lot of our client base here in the Valley.
Sure. Yeah, so I got into the industry right out of San Jose City College, never looked back, and so it's going on 24 years. We basically we do make work optional for our clients, whether they own a business or entrepreneurial or in that C-suite space. And our, the firm name is Touchstone Wealth. It's really a collaboration of myself and a couple colleagues where we have a similar process and practice and view on how we go about planning for clients. So never thought I would leave the Bay Area. I was born and raised in Good Sam, and here I'm in the desert and loving it. So
what was the decision to make you go?
Yeah, so it was almost a forced decision. I never wanted to move or thought I was going to move. My business partner, we had an acquisition basically on our firm, and there was a forced retirement of our managing partner at the time, and we didn't like the new powers coming in, and so we wanted to go interview other places. In Scottsdale, we had a good relationship with the managing partner over there. We didn't, in our world, we have to repaper clients' accounts. We didn't want to have to do that, and so that began the process, and we noticed there was a tremendous amount of opportunity around wealth management out there, and the discretionary income is significantly different out there versus here.
And when you say discretionary income, what does that mean?
Meaning there's a lot more money left over to invest, plan, buy toys. I've never seen people with so many second homes, before being in Arizona. And we're not talking wealthy clients. We're talking your average middle class, couple $100,000 household income, but they have a home in Scottsdale proper and a home in the mountains.
So talk us through the process of like what it felt like in 2016 to move. Like, were you scared? Like, what are all the feelings that our clients experience on the day in and day out? And maybe someone that's watching this has a great opportunity and is just scared to take it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It definitely was. You kind of had to go in with blinders on. I felt like a fish out of water. Everything was new. But then you started quickly realizing, well, oh shoot, we can actually really get affordable daycare for our kids. It's not $4,000 for part-time for 2 kids. It's $2,500 for 2 kids. And then, the sports and access to stuff is a lot easier, and we're not being watered down. There's the way I describe it is there's an appropriate amount of services for the amount of people almost.
Whereas here is not.
Yeah, it's just there's great opportunity, but there's so much overflow of people, in the schools or in sports or whatever. So, honestly, I think it was just not really thinking about it. And then getting into it and being in a new location, we immediately noticed some of that discretionary income. So, everyone knows summers is hot in Arizona. It's not always hot, but it's definitely hot in the summer. I never went to the beach more in my life than when in Arizona, and we would pop over to San Diego. But it wasn't like a big to-do, where being here, it felt like, oh man, this is a big thing to do, and yet we're only 40 miles from the beach, right? So,
Well, you know what they say.
no, what's that?
Everything is funny with a pocket full of money.
It's true. That's true. So, I think that the nerves, it took a while to get used to it, but the uptick in lifestyle overshadowed, your nerves and made you more calmer.
So you're saying you'd never move back?
No.
But
I like to visit.
yeah,
for sure.
I was just going to say, you still service a lot of clients out here, right? So I
Absolutely.
mean, I know you're out here, at least 2-3 times a month.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's still a home, from a nostalgic purpose, but it. If there was access to have a place out here, sure, but it's like I'd rather be in San Diego or somewhere else and enjoy the best of both worlds that California has to offer in Arizona.
Nice.
So-
Well, one of the reasons why you're out here today is you actually taught a class to our office today, and one of the things that resonates with us and our clients are, a lot of our clients have a lot of money tied up in stock and RSU, and maybe doesn't have access to instant liquidity. And one of the things that you talked about today that I thought was interesting, which is why I had you on the podcast, was being able to lend against like vested RSUs and things like that. So can you talk a little bit about that and how we can leverage that, or our clients can leverage that to buy real estate in a competitive market that we're in?
Yeah. So I think a lot of clients don't realize that those shares that are in their E-Trade account or Morgan Stanley or whoever's managing the RSUs is like an asset that they can actually access. I think they feel like, well, I can't use it until I sell it. So we can custodian the assets on our platform, or really any advisor could, and it's a line of credit against the equity. And so there's a handful of different lenders that will say, whether it's NVIDIA or Apple or Meta or whatever publicly traded company out here, they'll say, we'll give 60% of that portfolio value back out to the client in form of an interest loan. And so 4 out of the 7 magnificent 7 are here in the Bay Area. There's a significant amount of wealth that I think isn't being tapped or even looked at by advisors and clients. So we had a decent success with clients being able to utilize it for extra income or access to buying property, and so it's just really education.
Okay, so if I have, say, $2 million in RSUs, or say Apple stock, and I wanted to borrow against it, how is my interest rate calculated? What's the repayment look like on that? What's ideal?
Good question. So it's a lot of the lenders based off of SOFR, and so
what's SOFR?
It's now you put me on the spot. It's
an index, right?
It's the index for the short-term rate, and so what they'll do is say, hey, we'll add +1, prime +1 or -1, depending on the lender, and so then it's interest only. And so if we have $2 million, let's say we get $1 million out, simple math, we got 6%. You're paying that monthly, and then you could refi the property and pay off that note.
So I know it sounds kind of confusing, and there's some terms that even I don't understand, and I was kind of Googling it during your class. But the biggest thing that I want people to take away is that you don't actually have to sell the stock, right?
Correct. Yep.
So especially if you're buying kind of the grandma house where you're going to put some money into it down the road, you can fix it up, refinance the property.
Do cash out refinance.
Take the equity out, and then get you guys either paid up or get rid of that, whatever you want to do. But there's options, but the biggest thing is you're not being hit with all these capital gains taxes, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And you're not losing that stock.
Right.
Right.
So like if you believe in Apple, like probably most of the world does, like you don't probably want to sell it. If you're in deep with NVIDIA right now, you probably don't want to sell it, right?
Yeah.
But is there ever a time, I'm sure there is, where you say like, okay, maybe it was the run up of Zoom during COVID. Did you expect that stock to tank? What did you see there? Whereas someone comes to you, like, cash this thing out, like, where are you at with that?
Yeah, we try to go historical and say, hey, what are we trying to do with this? And then let's find exit points either in or out of the position. And so for a lot of the clients that have these RSUs, it's more about, okay, when's a good optimal time to get out of the position and minimize capital gains. And so then we, hedge out of it if we need to.
Gotcha.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, and then just to clarify too, is that this is the monthly payment is calculated on interest only, not an amortized principal and interest loan. So
Good
a
point.
so a 6% interest only loan is pretty comparable to about a 4% principal and interest loan. So not only is the rate reasonable, right?
Sure.
For borrowing money against stock, you don't have to sell, so your stock can continue to appreciate. But the payment calculation gives you instant debt relief compared to doing a traditional 30-year fixed loan. So it sounds like it's a great product. If in this competitive market, if I need cash, whether it's additional cash for a down payment or to take a property down, all cash with no financing, maybe keep it for 6 months and then do your cash out refi, pay it back after that.
Correct.
Yeah. I also just wanted to note it is vested RSUs
Correct.
that you have. So it's money that you have already kind of utilized and you're holding as stocks.
Sure.
But time and again, we've come across so many clients that are in a position where they're like, okay, I don't really want to sell my stock, pay all this capital gains. So it provides that opportunity of home ownership to so many people in that situation, which is majority of our clientele, that A-Paper client that are putting 20% plus down and liquidating most of it from stocks. So I think that's a huge value add.
Yeah, we've seen it on a handful of different reasons, whether it's property or, putting kids through school or whatever it is, right? So,
So a little off topic, but I know in our valley, it seems like everybody's got a stock portfolio and they're heavily invested, but there's a lot of people that aren't, right? There's still a lot of people out here in our marketplace that maybe more blue collar and never
Sure.
had access to education or information around stocks and long-term wealth and retirement. If you were giving advice to somebody today, whether they were 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, and they wanted to start investing, is it, hey, here's the top 5 stocks for the next 12 months, or here's the best index funds? What's the way to just get started in investing?
That's a great point. It would be, if we're starting on just a monthly contribution, sure, let's use like an index, the SPY 500, right? And we can build that up. But once you start hitting certain thresholds of an account balance, now we can get a little more customized and more exposure. So it just depends on the asset value. But I would say the biggest thing is starting soon and consistent. So most people in this valley and across the country do really good systematic savings through their 401k, but they don't do any systematic savings outside of that. They just put it in their checking account. And our big thing with clients is, let's make sure every dollar has its purpose. How do we systematize not only your retirement savings, but all the other cash that's coming in, and set up a cashiering platform to do it so it acts like what they're doing in their 401k, so we can scrape the money in and get it invested before it gets spent on Starbucks or whatever.
So, couple things.
Sure.
I'm going to take what you said as well.
Yeah.
I see a few large mistakes, and I'm not a financial planner, so we don't really get to talk about this, and you are, so you can talk about it. I see a lot of my friends and people that I know just carrying credit card debt. They have the money in the checking account, but it's uncomfortable for them to make the $30,000 payoff on the credit card. And I just want to change the way that anyone that's listening thinks about this. If you're buying something for $100 at a shirt at a store, and you're going to put that on your credit card and not pay it off, you're essentially paying $130 for that shirt over time.
Yeah,
right.
correct.
That's a big interest payment.
Sure.
And for you not to be getting at least 5% on your money just sitting in some sort of account that you can tap into is kind of silly.
Oh yeah.
So my personal experience is I haven't even looked at it, but once I started kind of surrounding myself with our team, I joined 3 years ago. I started an Acorns account, and it rounds up all my purchases over the last 3 years or so.
Sure.
That account today is almost $100,000.
That's awesome.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's because you spent a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wow, you spent
but
300 grand to get to 100.
But my whole point is, what is the biggest mistake that you see young millennials making where maybe you can help them?
I think it's exactly what you pointed out, is that they just go with the default plan, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I'm just going to park it in savings and I'll worry about this later. Or, yeah, I know I was supposed to do this and I'll worry about it later. One of my good buddies growing up here, we went to middle school, high school, got in a lot of trouble together. He's a mechanic, right? So I'll never forget it. Similar to your situation with Acorn, he's like, "What is this account? They're taking my money." And I was like, "Ed, no, that's your 401k." He's like, "Yeah, but I didn't do anything." I'm like, "Well, yeah, because they auto-enrolled you, and they put 4% of your salary in this account. And by the way, they matched it. So same thing, over 10 years, he had about $100,000 in his account by doing nothing. And that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because he just put his head in the sand. So I think the biggest thing when people hear wealth advisors is being intimidated. Don't be intimidated.
It's a big name, I feel like.
Yeah.
Right?
And
you went to school for it, and you obviously know what's going on.
Yeah, it's the intimidation factor is definitely there, but strategies can be the same whether you have $100,000 or 100 million. It's really just what's the overall goal and how do we tackle it. So the biggest thing I think with young people is just putting their head in the sand and not do anything. Cash is finally attractive now for the first time in like 30 years. Money market accounts are giving 5.25 right now. And you would be shocked by the amount of companies, very successful individuals that are still sitting on 6-7 figures in their regular savings account. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we can get a money market account at 5.25.
That means you're getting 5.25% on your interest. Interest on your money.
balance.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So what are you super bullish on over the next year to 3?
Oh, that's a good point. U.S. market. I mean, it's amazing to me doing this and living through, 3 or 4 financial crises, right? The dot-com boom, bust, the Great Recession, or the 08 and 09, and now COVID. There's still a big group of people. We're driven by fear, and so they're like rooting for a recession. And I'm like, what are you doing? Don't you want things to get better? So I'm super bullish on the overall economy. I mean, the markets are going to continue to grow to the point of what we're talking about today. You have more birth rates than we've ever had since the baby boom generation, even more than the baby boom generation. So there's going to be a ton of activity coming into our economy. And we're a capitalist society, right? So we have to spend money. Things are going to automatically just get put into the market and the economy,
just
even
by the number of consumers and people.
Right, and we're, I don't know. My experience been in the Bay Area is it used to be country, U.S. wide. It was competitive. You had to compete with all these different states. Now it's international, right? You're competing with people in China and India and all across the world, and so to sit on the sidelines is, I think, the biggest mistake.
Okay,
so super bullish about getting in the market.
So in the market in general.
Yeah, I mean, you could be.
But does that mean tech stock? Does that mean bonds? Does that mean treasury?
No, I wouldn't pick and choose. I mean, we would take it as a diversified portfolio. We're boring. Diversified portfolio.
So are you more conservative by nature, would you say, or would you be more aggressive?
No, I think it's just more strategic.
Got it.
Instead of, people always want like that black and white answer, right? And it's like, well, no, how about, for example, a lot of clients will have one position in a stock, and we can say, hey, this group of stocks of 150 give you the same performance and minimize risk.
Yeah.
So why not go that route, right? And it's not us calling every 6 months or a year and this is the new hot thing. Let's stick with this strategy, and over a 20-year period it's going to outperform. At least when we look back, each time in history over a 20-year period, diversification almost always wins.
So someone that's investing with you, what can they expect to make just year over year?
It depends.
Do you have an average? I guess.
I would say
past performance does not guarantee future results.
Well, because you said since 1954, like when the whole war happened, the average U.S. economy performed at X.
Like, I get you. Yeah, I would say long-term money. If we're, money that we talk with clients with money of buckets, right? So 10 years or more of money, we should be around an average of 8% or more, right? So, and that doesn't, think of that as a multiplier, because that means that portfolio may do 3 or 4 times 8 average. So sometimes it may be 24, 32% returns, or it could be negative 24 or 32%, just to get that average of that 10 year.
Yeah.
So in a midterm, 3 to 5 year, we want to outpace taxes and inflation.
Yeah,
and then short term, we're hopefully keeping up with muni bond rates.
So as long as you stay consistent, you're never going to lose money over time, theoretically.
Yeah,
in theory, yes.
In theory, unless like COVID
you can only
hits when
lose
you're
it
trying
by
to cash
pulling the
out.
money, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Like if you trust the process, you're going to be okay.
Absolutely, the markets have continued to grow ever since the market was established.
It's just like real estate.
Well,
right?
it was really refreshing to hear you in your class today say, like, we already had the little, recession for COVID. Like that's over. It's going. We're going up again.
Yeah.
Right?
It lasted basically a day.
Whereas like everyone's like, oh my God, we're going down again. And
and that's like when people say, well, I'm going to wait till home prices drop. Well, we know that they go up and then down, but over time they're always going up. So yeah, you might get lucky and buy on a dip, right? But that dip's only going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, which again, over the course of 5 to 7 or even 13 years now, people are staying in the homes longer. It's not going to matter all that much.
We had an expedited recession. In 6 months, the home prices went down and up. Same with stocks. It was just like a mini V-shaped recovery.
But it was scary. I remember March. What is it? March 2020 or something? Did the market shut off?
Yeah.
And it was like,
what do we do?
But no one said buy stock today. Actually, Mark Cuban did.
Yeah.
No one said buy stock today. It's always uncomfortable when you have to make that decision when things do drop, right?
Yeah.
Like say the market does fall on it. Are you going to pull the trigger to buy the house? Are you going to pull the trigger to give you $100,000 to invest it?
Probably not,
Right.
We are emotionally tied to our money, right?
But you'll look like a genius 3 years after
Hell
that
yeah.
if you actually
In
do it.
2009, those people were probably super scared.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was hearing, I'm catching a falling knife.
Yeah, got you the falling.
But
That's
now
a term,
you look genius, and you kind of set yourself up if you did buy back then.
Yeah, if you follow the big money, you follow Warren Buffett, right? Be fearful when people are greedy and be greedy when people are fearful. That resonates so much. So, when in COVID, Warren was pushing another couple billion of cash into the market, right? And yet others were going, oh my God, what's happening? And yeah, we're not Warren Buffett's, but the theory still maintains.
Yeah,
You're buying at a discount.
Just keep chipping away, right? Like
Absolutely.
you don't have to compare yourself to billionaires, I think is like
No.
where people get super caught up.
And the main thing, I think the parallel between investing, whether it's stocks and index funds or real estate is just get in, right? Don't sit on the fence too long because time is not your friend, in terms of being able to get into the market and get either appreciation or profits. And just get your foot in the door.
So, if I may.
You may.
You said something that also sparked my attention. You said like a healthy market is where housing interest rates are somewhere between like 4 and 5%.
Sure.
Did I understand that correctly?
That's kind of where a lot of the pundits will say like, hey, we need interest rates around this price, this interest level, and that's where I was saying my first home in 2006, that was like almost 8%, and so I think giving people perspective, there's people that have seen 12, 15% that are in the market, and it's like, 7 isn't that crazy. It sucks, but it's not that crazy.
Well,
so what is the Federal Reserve doing right now, in your opinion?
They're waiting. I think
so. They will go down, based on what you think.
In the beginning of this year, there was, constituents or, people were thinking that they were going to cut almost 100 basis points. Well, that's probably not the case anymore. So September timeframe, that's where a lot of people feel they're going to give something. They probably won't pause again. Maybe they'll cut, 10, 20 basis points. But I think that's what's holding back a lot of things.
I feel like the Federal Reserve is like the sorcery of just like secretivity.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's
It's like this fairy tale.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, look, we're going into an election year, and I know the Fed works independently from the arm of the presidency, but lower interest rates is going to be good for a sitting president, and so I'm forecasting.
Did you know coffee's up 100%? I just wanted to share
Coffee?
that. Coffee.
Like the price of a bean?
Like we talk about inflation, but like, have you noticed that the consumer index has taken a lot of things off recently?
Sure.
They took coffee off, and I was like, why? And then I was like, oh, 100%. Coffee, the bean of coffee.
The bean of coffee.
Of 100. The coffee bean.
Today I was seeing Trump has an Instagram profile, right, where they do their marketing and everything. And so he had posted that McDonald's fries when he was president was $1, and with Biden it's $3.15. So he's like,
it's gonna
it's
be a
up
wild one.
300%.
Hey, but also home prices are up, man, right? So and now you can get a Tesla for basically free.
Yeah, I bought a Tesla for free. 1% interest.
They're paying you basically.
Yeah.
To own it.
People are like, how are they free? And I'm like, well, you see,
Yeah.
to finance.
Yeah. Free money.
Yeah, free money.
Free money.
All right.
It's kind of like EDDM money. Or wait, what was it? Economic disaster relief money.
like the PPP loans and the
That's free money.
EIDL.
What a time.
What a time.
So, I guess wrapping up.
Yeah.
Who should call you? Like, if you have $1,000, $10,000, do you have a minimum threshold?
Yeah, we tend to look at household income, combined of $500,000 or more. But that doesn't stop people. Anyone could call and reach out. We got team members that are starting to grow their practice that would be happy to call and point people in the right direction. But in reality, it's people that are willing to adhere advice, not what's the next hot thing, right? Like we're not here to get you rich. We're here to keep you rich and get rich slow, right? That's the key thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, most people are going to make their wealth doing what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you have no plan, you should probably find a plan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're over the age of 21 years old and, you can legally drink, you should probably legally talk to a financial planner.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get professional service in every other aspect of our life, but when it comes to one of the most important things, we tend to go, I got this. I'm going to do this.
Well, yeah, and it just goes back to our education system that, puts more emphasis on other curriculum versus real life skills like investing and baking.
Right.
All right. Well, appreciate you joining us, brother.
No, thank you.
Good to see you here, and unlocking Silicon Valley. We'll see if the name sticks. If not, we'll let the viewers decide.
Catch you next time.
All right, guys. See ya.